Friends in the Corner podcast. Stories and topics from around the state of Kentucky. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Dan Pauly coming back to you live from Lexington, Kentucky. I'm happy to be back with you for the second part of this good doubleheader we've got for you this week, featuring Andrew Williams from Under the Blue Banners. We hope you guys had an opportunity to go listen to the previous episode that we did with him, where we recapped the March Madness tournament, UK's basketball season, and we previewed the NFL draft and the boys in blue that are expected to be showing up for that. But guys, if you haven't, be sure to go check it out. It is in our archives, and be sure to check out Andrew's program as well, his show, Under the Blue Banners. The link to his iTunes account will be in the description, and you can follow him on Twitter at Under Banners as well. If you haven't also, be sure to subscribe to my show as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FITC Podcast. That's FITC Podcast. Subscribe to us on all 6 avenues that we have available, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. And be sure to email the show at friendsinthecorner@gmail.com. That's friendsinthecorner, all together lowercase, at gmail.com. Because I'm excited about today's episode, because this is a tail end of the interview that we did with Andrew earlier this week in regards to some different content. So we talked about basketball, we talked about football, but one thing that I was excited for us to talk about was Wrestlemania. Yes, it's no secret that I've shared on the show before. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and we've had the opportunity to have pro wrestling personalities on here like DJ Otis Badass from Primetime Wrestling, PTW Proud. And so when Andrew was talking to me about what we could talk about on the show, we talked about the basics, basketball, football, and he's like, what about Wrestlemania? And that just perked up my nerdy ears. So we decided we're going to take a minute just to talk about what we thought about Wrestlemania. We talked about some of our favorite promotions that we also talk about outside WWE. One big one that's coming up is AEW and how we think they're going to do against the WWE when they come into town. And we talked about our favorite wrestlers of all time too. So it was a fun conversation that we had just on the tail end of what we were talking about with UK basketball and football here. So we're going to release this episode, this nice Wrestlemania recap here for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. So welcome back to the show, Mr. Andrew Williams. I definitely want to talk about one more other thing here real quickly. I don't know if I may use this on the main show. I might use this as a side project, but besides Kentucky football, basketball, the March Madness tournament, Masters, all that stuff coming up here, we did get to experience Wrestlemania a little bit here this past Sunday. So let's talk about it, man. What did you think of Wrestlemania?
My God, it was long. That's what I thought about it. Like it was so long. Like we started. I was sitting there thinking, like, I get pumped up for WrestleMania. It's something that you kind of mark on your calendar. And I started watching the WWE Network at 6:00, and at 12:30, I'm like the main event starting, and I'm like, what on earth is going on right now? How have I been watching? I've been watching wrestling for 6 hours.
I exactly. I'm just like, I was like, it's already I was like 11 o'clock. I'm like, surely it's almost done. And then I just did a quick Google search. I looked at the Wikipedia page. It was like, there's still 4 matches left. Like, what are we doing here? I got to work tomorrow. I was like, it's like, we got Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio on. And it's like, I don't really care about this match. It's like, let's go. Just send it.
So what did you like? Because here's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
It was fine. Like there was some high moments. I was a little bit like underwhelmed. I was kind of expecting just a little bit more, and I don't really know what I was expecting. But how did you feel about it?
So a couple things I took away from it here. I think what really underwhelmed me was the last match on the cards: Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and stuff like that. Like, expected Becky Lynch was going to win. I think shocker here, wrestling's predetermined for anyone that doesn't know. But if you're following the stories around, that's kind of where we're going. But it kind of ended just so wonky and weird, and everyone in the stadium and everyone watching the show is just so tired. You're like, oh, it's over now. Like if you're gonna keep us that long, end it like in a shock and awe type of way.
Yeah.
I was just kind of, it was just kind of like this weird, like botched roll, dusty finish that I don't think anyone really was like, oh yeah, Becky's the champion now. Cool, let's go.
Yeah,
it's like some things that I loved. I loved Kofi winning the title. Kofi
was awesome.
It's funny because it's always weird for me when I watch a guy that I saw debut, like get to that point. So I remember like watching Kofi debut in ECW. And when he had his little fake Jamaican accent and stuff like that, and now he's part of New Day and he wins the title, I was like, I thought that was really cool. Matt set up. I thought it was. We've talked about this a little bit off air, but I thought it was cool that a Kentucky native was really focused on the card. Ricochet, he was in a tag team match, and for those who don't know or don't follow Ricochet too much, he is from Paducah, Kentucky. He's been on the independent scene for 16 years, and it's only within the last couple of years he's been a part of the WWE, and now he's been at WrestleMania. And if you just want something fun to watch, a match, I always tell people, kind of, if you're wrestling fans are kind of split up about this match, but Google Ricochet versus Will Ospreay. And it might be the most fun thing you've ever watched in your whole damn life. And like Kentucky is like or wrestling's like the most fascinating thing ever when you watch that.
and so like that was a cool storyline. And so how do you keep up? Is your fandom just WWE, or do you keep up with other brands and stuff?
I keep up with as much as I can outside WWE. Like, so I've been keeping up a lot with the AEW stuff, New Japan.
Okay, because I'd like to talk about the AEW stuff, because I've watched a little. Like, I've watched their 2 press conferences or whatever that they've done, because I love wrestling too, and it is fascinating. And for anybody that don't like it, like, get out of here. People tell me, like, oh, you like wrestling? I'm like, man, whatever. So like the AEW stuff, I'm hoping that there's a real competition now, and because I think, like, going back, if you look back at wrestling and you're looking back at the days that we grew up, like WCW and WWE, like, you're competing against each other, and you had the NWO and all that stuff. And wrestling was awesome. You had like Stone Cold and The Rock and those guys. And now like AEW, and I guess maybe with WrestleMania, I was kind of thinking, all right, they're going to have to step up. WrestleMania is going to have to be awesome because you've got Double or Nothing coming up with AEW. And I just don't think it hit that level that I was kind of expecting going into a time period that I think is going to be a little bit of a competition for WWE. How do you feel about AEW? Like, do you think that it's got a shot, or what are we thinking here?
So it's definitely hard for me to. So what I'll say is this: if for anyone who's not a big wrestling fans, like, when you look at the WWE right now, you definitely think that it's a very talented roster. But if you just go and do a quick Google search of AEW and see the roster they got, I think they probably have an even more talented roster on that card. They have a guy on their roster named Kenny Omega, and he's considered to be probably one of the best wrestlers in the world today. And he does have some good matches he did out in Japan that really kind of at that point. The Young Bucks are a tag team that a lot of people call the best tag team, and they're a little more flippy and a little more fun. And if you are a big Kentucky native here, you probably know the name Jim Cornette. He hates those guys.
Yeah, he does. He does.
But I think, because back in the day, I thought TNA was going to be the biggest competitor to the WWE, because I thought like they had a roster that was like, this is going to be someone that's going to be able to compete with them. And obviously that fizzled out, but that, I don't know if that was as much the talent's fault as the behind the scenes. AEW, I think, does have a good chance. I think though what they're going to have is kind of a different pull from what the normal WWE is. I don't think it's going to be really hard for another company to be as mainstream as the WWE. The WWE is bigger than wrestling,
It
and
is.
it's hard to overcome that with another company. AEW probably won't be as bigger than wrestling, but do I think that they're going to be a good alternative that's going to offer a lot of awesome content and awesome matches? And do I love watching Being the Elite more than anything else each week? Heck yeah, I do. And hell, I mean, over the last couple of months, if you've been following the WWE, you've noticed a lot of people leaving the WWE.
Yeah.
And where do you think they're going?
Yeah.
Most recent, the one that's been talked about a lot is Dean Ambrose, and I don't think I wouldn't be too shocked to see Dean Ambrose in AEW anytime soon. A couple other guys, so yeah, I hope it takes off, and I hope that it does good. I love all the wrestlers that are on the card there. I was a big Cody Rhodes fan before he left the WWE, and I always thought, man, he was going to be something special if he would have stayed, but I'm happy he left and has done what he's done. So that's kind of my thoughts but I honestly, if to just be a wrestling fan right now, I think I'll say this. I think what's the coolest thing about AEW is that they've been able to do all of this without any TV. Everything has been because of YouTube and the internet and getting a fan base just off that. And I don't know if WWE would have been able to do the same thing that AEW did.
But because I think that they kind of and you can tell me if you agree. I think you're right in what you say that like WWE is bigger than wrestling, and I think that they're like if you watch NXT. Like NXT is something that I also think that is geared towards the same type of people that would like AEW. Like I think and WWE's completely different. Like if you watch some of the guys, dude, there are superstars that have come out of NXT that are literally like can't even get on the pre-show on WrestleMania that have been completely botched. So the two names that come to my mind are like Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura, like right off the top, right off the cuff. And I think like what I want to see, because I enjoy this more. Like I don't want like I like wrestling, man. Like the sports entertainment, I like wrestling. Like I like the way Triple H books NXT. I want Triple H. Like I'm very prepared for the day when Vince McMahon can step aside, like and just hand it over to Triple H, because I just think that he kind of gets that a little bit better than Vince does. And I think AEW, you're right, it's going to pull an audience, and it's going to pull a different style of audience. And if and everything that they've done has just been kind of like a grassroots movement. So if they were able, and Jim, like they just got Jim Ross, and Jim Ross said, like they asked him, and he was like, we got a network TV deal. If they can get on a big network, like, and if they can, if they can continue to build kind of that grassroots kind of wrestling type of thing, I mean, we'll see, man. I think it could be interesting.
I agree. And Dean Ambrose may be the first piece in this movement here, but I think about this. One thing that made WCW so successful, WCW did have a couple stars that were kind of made there, like Goldberg and Sting. But one of the things that made them so successful even was that they, back in the 90s, they were able to take some of the top talent from the WWF at the time over there. And I think that's going to be interesting to see if AEW is able to entice some of the top stars in the WWE the way WCW did. And I think that might be what starts that shift here. So WCW, they got Kevin Nash, and they got Scott Hall, and they got eventually Hulk Hogan. If the WWE, Ric Flair, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like if the AEW is able to entice talent the same way that they did there, I think it's going to be interesting to see. But Wrestling is a fun thing, and I've always told people, it's like, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're willing just to invest a little bit into it, it can be a little fun ride to be on.
Are you a storyline guy? Do you like storylines better, or are you just like, I just want to watch a match?
I just want to watch a match. Storylines to me, they do help. Like, definitely, I thought the Kofi storyline was awesome. I thought the Becky Lynch storyline was awesome. Especially because, like, I get those, but I would rather have less talk, less setup, good matches. I think that's why I like NXT a lot more, because if you watch NXT TakeOver, it's not 8 hours long like WrestleMania is. It's only 5 matches, 2 hours, get it done. And I respect that a little bit more. So
and they I think the stories they tell in NXT are like, because you've got like the Johnny Gargano and the Tommaso Ciampa storyline that, like, I'm not gonna spoil anything for you because you ain't watched NXT yet. But like, even having that storyline, they do a better job at telling stories, and they like the long burn of the story, and then the payoff is actually worth it.
Yeah.
So
and they've been doing that story for 2 years. To this point.
And you know, there's still more left to tell of it, and I think that's awesome. So I want to ask you this question: give me your top 5 best wrestlers in the world
right now, or of all time?
Right now. Let's do both. Do right now, then do all time.
So right now, my top 5 wrestlers in the world. It's hard for me to put in particular. Number 1 for me is AJ Styles. I've been following AJ for years.
Okay.
Kenny Omega.
Okay.
Put me on the spot, homeboy.
Man, I'll give you mine, and I'll give you a chance to think about it.
Okay.
So I'll take Kenny Omega. I'll take AJ Styles with you too. I think AJ's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with Seth Rollins. I'm a huge Seth Rollins guy. I just think he's really talented. I think he's been good consistently, and he is somebody that always brings it, and so I like that a lot. I love Johnny Gargano. I'm a big Johnny wrestling guy. I mean, I've always, kind of marked out for him. And then we'll go Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
So, all right, now I've gotten some time to think on it here. So, AJ, Kenny are definitely my top 2. I'm going to say, and he's a little underrated right now, but I thought he was great in NXT, was Andrade Cien.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Andrade, I thought was awesome back then. He had a little bit of a good run at the start of his WWE career, but he's kind of fizzled out. Yeah. Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte Flair is the best women's wrestler I've ever seen.
Oh, of all time. Yeah, I don't think it's even close.
And then my third's Will Ospreay, or my fifth's Will Ospreay. I'm a huge Will Ospreay fan. He's not in the WWE, but he's a really popular indie wrestler for anyone that wants to invest in looking up any of his matches.
Yeah, that's a good list. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you my top 5 of all time, and this is more like personal preference. I'm not gonna go with like wrestling skill, because I don't think these guys. This ain't the top 5. Like, I think, oh my gosh, are the best in-ring talent of all time. I just think these are the top 5. Like, when you think wrestling, these are the dudes. I'm gonna go Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think, like, he's just the ultimate package of everything that you want in wrestling. I'm gonna go Ric Flair as my number 2. I mean, it's just hard to argue against Ric Flair. I will go. Man, I don't want to. I will go The Rock, just because I think there's nobody that's ever been greater on the mic than The Rock, and he made cutting promos something different than we could even understand. I've always been a big Sting guy. Sting, just the whole, like, his anti-hero against the NWO, that whole thing was awesome for me. And then I would say maybe my 5th one, let's do Shawn Michaels.
All right, so that's a great list too, and so Sean's my number one. Sean, when I look at my list here, we're gonna have some similar cross appears, just the nature of it. But Sean, Austin, Taker,
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I don't think there's anyone that really captivated me as a child, as a wrestler, as much as Eddie Guerrero did. And I still remember I talked to someone else on the show about this. I remember like crying the day I found out Eddie Guerrero died.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was intense. So Sean, Austin, Taker, Eddie, and another controversial pick here. Maybe for the times it's probably not super great, but I was a huge Chris Benoit fan, and
he was awesome, man.
He was awesome. What happened afterwards, something to be talked about. But when you watch him in the ring, like I thought, just like Eddie, he was something that was incredibly captivating. So those are my top five, and yeah, so cool.
It's a good list, man.
Thank you. Well, Andrew, man, it's been good talking to you, brother. And we've talked a lot about a number of different things here, and we've had a lot of good topics. I'm probably going to have to make 2 different shows out of this episode.
Yeah.
It's always good to have more content than not enough. So I love it.
And listen, man, I appreciate you having me on. Anybody that wants to, like, you come listen to my podcast Under the Blue Banners. You can follow me on Twitter. My podcast Twitter is @underbanners, BANNERS, and my personal Twitter is @Andrew_W8. And Dan, I'd like to get together soon, man.
Let's do it, brother. So we'll do a Under the Blue Banners Friends in the Corner podcast crossover here soon, man.
Absolutely. It sounds awesome.
All right, Andrew. Until next time, my brother.
Dude, it was fun.
All right, and that's it for our WrestleMania recap. I want to thank Andrew Williams for coming back in the show again to talk about WrestleMania, talk about his favorite wrestlers, and just have an opportunity to nerd out with me for just a minute here. And guys, if you haven't, go check him out. His link to his iTunes account is in my description. Follow him on Twitter @underbanners. And then you can also follow our show as well at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @FITC Podcast, FITC Podcast. Subscribe to us on all channels, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. And be sure to continually check in for the next episodes of Friends in the Corner podcast. All right, guys. Well, this was a fantastic episode. We're excited to do this again. And until next time, that's a wrap.